you got a family that's destroyed, and we as a school or a society, we didn't do good. You know, we let's keep it hush. We'll throw 1 or 2 counselors extra there so the kids can talk. We'll pretend it didn't happen. We'll underreport. You know, long as it's not impacting a certain demographic, it's not a problem.
Welcome you and all to another episode of the Global Latin Factor podcast, where we talk about, say with me, Latino everything. Thank you very much for being here. I know you already know it's very important to subscribe. Why? Because you help channels like ourselves grow content to show amazing human stories, amazing human examples on YouTube. Go hit the subscribe, give us a like, and leave a comment. Thank you very much. Today we have an amazing person. He is a Danzante Capitán of Coahuiltecan. I'm going to Coahuiltecan, Xicano descent, tribal singer, dancer since 1997. Currently leads the Mitotiliztli Yaoyollohtli Heart of Warrior Aztec Dance Group. Mitotiliztli, ya lo dije eso, messing up. You've been rostered in the city of Dallas for the Culture Affairs program since 2006.
Right.
Evelio co-founded also Kalpulli Tonalpilli, Temple Children of the Sun, Native American Church in 2005 as a practicing member of cultural tradition of Indigenous Ancestors. He's a pipe carrier, a Sundancer since 2000. He is also a member of the advisory council with the Indigenous Institute of the Americas and cultural consultant for the indigenous culture in San Marcos, Texas. Correct?
Correct. Yes,
currently, he is a realtor and has over 20 years experience also with counseling in the DFW area. And he's also a bilingual professional, over 20 years experience of, again, as I mentioned, counseling and more. Jesus o J. Evelio Chichilticoatl Flores Jr., correct?
Ándale, ahí la llevamos.
I'm going to have to take a pause because I'm sweating profusely because there was a lot and the lights are on, and I think they turned the AC on today. I know I probably slaughtered some of the words. I'm trying to go fast.
Oh, it's okay.
I hope everything's correct. If there's any of them that are not correct, let me know.
It's all good.
How you doing today?
Good. How about yourself, man? Thank you for having me here.
Thank you very much for being here. I know you don't do a lot of interviews, but I know you have a lot of knowledge. I met you before. The first time I ever seen an interview with you, the way you were speaking and everything that you have as far as the knowledge and everything you were saying, I'm like, man, I have to have him here.
Thank you.
Because he has a lot of things to share. So let's get started.
Órale.
But first, we're going to start with a segment that I like to call Preguntas al Chile. Got hot, for real.
Preguntas al Chile.
Preguntas al Chile. Do you like this? Do you like that?
Órale.
¿Estás listo, Evelio?
Aquí estoy, bro.
¿Tacos o tortas?
Híjole, that's a hard one. Pues vamos con tacos.
Corn tortilla or flour tortilla?
Híjole. Vamos con flour.
Flour?
Híjole,
Okay.
me van a regañar, ¿eh?
Le van a regañar. Bean or squash?
Frijoles.
Frijolitos. Gorditas o sopes?
Sopes.
Sopes. Great choice.
Ajá.
Jarritos or Mexican coca?
Híjole, esa también es una chulada. Let's go with coca.
Coca.
Yeah.
Mexicana.
Yeah, mexicana.
Agüita de horchata, jamaica o tamarindo?
Horchata.
Horchata.
Ándale, una
Are you
horchatita.
team salsa verde or salsa roja?
Salsa verde.
Salsa verde.
Yes. Salsa
every
verde.
day. I like the way you think.
Yeah.
Burritos or quesadillas?
Burritos.
Burritos.
Vamos con los burritos.
Menudo or pozole?
Y ahí sí ya me van a regañar. No me gustan ni los dos.
¿Ni los dos?
Neither.
Neither? Hey, Each
Me van a regañar.
Is there a particular reason why you never grew into no creciste? Vamos a hacerlo hoy en Spanglish. Okay?
Ándale, en Spanglish. Well, así hablo yo, Spanglish, ¿verdad? So, I don't know, los caldos o cosas like that are kind of soupish, así. For whatever reason, no me llaman la atención.
Nunca te gustaron los caldos.
No, yeah, I'm like, I mean, I've eaten it before. It's not my preference, ¿verdad? Pero el olor del menudo no me cae muy bien. Y el pozole tampoco.
Yeah.
So, sin ofender a la raza, ¿eh?
¿Y la sopita de fideo?
Y tampoco.
¿Tampoco? So just the liquidy hot stuff, you know? The wife's here.
Yeah. She's here, jala la oreja.
Ghost punches. Churros or flan?
Churros. Let's go with churros.
Salsas, Valentina, Tapatío, Cholula, Tabasco, any of those?
Híjole. No me gustan de la botella.
No?
Yeah,
Natural?
I like the molcajete or, homemade.
Molcajete.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Algo así, ¿me entiendes?
Fresquecita, real
Ándale.
And the pastries, los panecitos, do you like cochitas, the white ones, the pink ones, or the brown ones?
Todos son buenas, but let's go with pink. Why not?
Pink? Why not? Yeah. Good flavor.
Yeah.
This is way different than all the other questions. Not even the same.
Okay.
A conspiracy theory that once you heard one time, you'd be like, you know what? That has to be true. Oh, that could really be real close to true. What could that be?
A conspiracy theory that I believe might be true, you said?
Yes.
Ay. Hay muchas. There's a lot that I don't believe. But that's not the question. Let's just say that I believe in Bigfoot.
You think there's a guy out there?
I think there's a Sasquatch.
Something?
I think there's an animal or creature. I should no offense. Un creature que existe that was here before humanity, whatever. It actually ties in with a lot of our indigenous culture.
Really?
Okay, we believe that there was an entity that's like a Sasquatch or a Bigfoot, and so never met him, but never seen one.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be surprised if one day we run into one or see one.
I think everything's possible.
Sure.
And it doesn't help when the footage that people capture is so grainy and not great quality.
Right.
But the fact that all those places, like all those forests, national forests, are so big that something could be hiding or something could be living in there that we haven't like actually walked to or talked to or seen or whatever.
Explored.
I think it's caves, whatever you have in there. You find all these underground caves all the time. They're huge. They're miles in. Imagine if there's something like that somebody's living in there.
Well, think about it. All around the world, in Asia, they call them Yeti, I believe. And the abominable snowman.
Yep.
I mean, are these just figments of our imagination? I mean, I don't know. But, I mean, they have names for this entity that exists or has been seen around the world. So that's my conspiracy theory kind of belief.
What about the ones that you say you don't believe in? Which ones would be that you heard before?
Híjole. Okay. Scientists, don't get mad at me because I love science. I believe in science. I just don't feel like we've been to the moon. I don't know. It's logical. Well, okay. We're talking what? In the 60s, ¿verdad?
Yeah.
50, 60, 70 years ago.
Yeah.
We had that technology to go land in the moon, do whatever we did there and come back. And we haven't been back since.
I was thinking like great mind things alike because I was thinking the same thing. How is it that we had the technology and we just had like, I don't know, we went to sleep, we forgot, somebody hit us in the back of the head and all of a sudden we forgot to just keep going over there?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the idea for, like maybe just to be able to go, but what was our purpose? What came out of it? I mean, I'm sure there's people that know those kind of things and us average lay people don't, pero I don't know. It just appears, like, it was just one of those, let's compete against the Russians, who were sending out ships up in space, and let's make it seem like we'll beat them to the moon. Now, I think we've probably been there now. In fact, I'm sure there's evidence that we've been there since. But to believe that in the 60s we had that technology, I don't know. It's kind of hard for me, and I'm not qualified to say one way or the other, but it's just an opinion.
Yeah, same thing here for my opinion too. Like you said, it's the same thing for me, and then. Like, we went there and we just didn't decide to just keep exploring. So we just naturally always exploring and we just wanted to be there. And then not to mention propaganda and just feeding news over and over and making you think something's happen and never happen
Yeah.
is so possible. Then I'm with you on that
Yeah.
one. Don't get at scientists.
Ándale a los scientists en
I believe
ofender.
in you too, por favor. Pero I mean,
Ándale.
go over there and make a video selfie and then come back and then y'all can talk to me. All right, so let's start the interview.
Okay.
Actually, when you hear the word Latino, Latina,
Uh-huh.
Latinx, for you, what comes to mind first?
Ay, ay, ay.
You can be raw too with it. You don't have
Okay.
to be polite. It is
Okay.
what it is. Your opinion. We will respect it.
Ay, ay, ay. You know, I think our people are too accommodating. I think we've always been too accommodating. I think it comes back from years of oppression. You know, if you pay attention, when someone says Pancho, what's the first thing we say? Mande.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like order me, boss me around.
Mm.
And to me, that comes from the slave days. The Spaniards and people like that. And there's a lot of language that I hear. So when I hear Latino, Latinx, whatever else, well, first of all, Latinx and stuff like that, I think is kind of silly. Sin ofender, even though I'm sure I already did,
Mm-hmm.
because la palabra es Latino or Latina, and I know what we're trying to do, but we're trying to accommodate and make it X. So I get that part, but the word is the word, right? I also believe that we, as a colonized people, we have been programmed to acknowledge the European side, to praise and elevate
Mm-hmm.
the European sangre, the European side.
Right.
¿Cuántas veces escuchamos, ¿verdad? Ay, pobrecita, mija, está fita, bien, mi pretita.
Yeah.
Like pretito is like an offense, right?
Yeah.
But si estás clarito, ojos claritos, da, 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 estás guapo, estás bonito. All you got to do is watch a novela.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wife is going to get me at that. Watch a novela, y all the actors, well, the good ones, are white. Y quienes los trabajadores son pretitos.
Ahí estoy yo ahí. Una de las escenas.
Yeah, limpiando,
And
cocinando.
then get beat up by del jefe.
So to me, it reinforces when we use words like Latino, Hispanic, we're reinforcing indirectly, to a degree, that whole notion that we are not a group of people unless we're associated with some kind of European background. That's just kind of like my belief.
When we have our own thing, our own identity, that we've been forgetting that we have stuff that's great too, right? That we have just keep forgetting to remember that we've been having amazing identity ourselves.
I mean, they brag about these universities that were in the East Coast, the
Mhm.
Harvards, the Yales. And those are great,
Yeah.
institutions. But thousands of years before that, we had our schools in Mexico, in Peru, in Nicaragua, well, all these places.
Mm.
And there's no acknowledgement of that. Again, it
Right.
kind of reinforces that unless it's European based, then it's not worth mentioning. It's just a little sentence in a book or a movie, because somehow, some way, we weren't able to do that.
Yeah.
Now go to a city like Teotihuacan,
Mm-hmm.
those kinds of places, and the engineers and scientists see, oh my goodness, look at this architecture, look at the alignment, with astronomical bodies, look at all these things. How did they do that?
Yeah.
Well, it was aliens. That's what they say. Again, we are not intelligent or sophisticated enough to create that. So someone, this time out of space, had to come in and help us create these cities. And when I look at our people, our gente, trabajadores, cómo trabajamos,
Yeah.
like on any field,
Yeah.
our creativity, our genius, really, our parents, our families, how they work, and all the things we create, I'm like, well, why are we doubting ourselves? You know what I mean? And so, anyway, that's kind of how, excuse me, that's kind of how I see that. I've always been not against, but for us as a gente, as a community, to acknowledge not only our indigenous side, but to be proud of our roots. our roots that didn't cross an ocean, our roots that did not invade, our roots that not displace, murder, genocide, what have you.
Right.
Our roots that have been here, ¿entiendes? And so that's the angle that I see the world.
Yeah. And it's interesting you say, it just dawned on me that the fact that those little words that we keep saying keep us in a place instead of being able to acknowledge our greatness, acknowledge our intelligence, acknowledge our roots, our capacity of building amazing things that people think is out of space, but technically, like you said, amazing people that we have, amazing workers, amazing intelligence to even create zero, that we have that.
Yeah.
But those little things just keep us in place of like, you want that because if it's not European, then it can't be great, you know?
Well, go out any day in Dallas and see the construction and who's doing it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, who's building the roads, the buildings, who's maintenance them, who is working inside of them, providing the services. And it's like, there's a proof.
Right.
It wasn't aliens.
Right.
You know what I mean? It was us, you know, and we're still doing it. ¿Entiendes? And so those are things that I think about. And, you know, I don't want to keep beating this dead horse, but I just think that there's power in words, right? And even by just using maybe correct words or maybe better words, we empower ourselves and we empower others también. You know what I mean? And so
you feel that's be a change that you can do to be able to better steer away from that and be able to know who you are and continue moving forward with more empowerment when you denounce that or not use them so much, so you can be, you know.
You know, one of my mentors, man, Jose Angel Gutierrez, who, you know, a great friend and mentor, he told me that, you know, when you want to make change, you start by talking about it, you know, and that's the thing that we do first. But I mean, I can have an idea, but if I don't share it or talk about it,
Right.
it doesn't manifest. ¿Verdad? I may not be there to see it, right? You know, like some of our other heroes. Pero if you start talking about it, then change, I think, inevitably can take place.
Yeah.
And so that's why I'm, you know, you asked me the question about the word. I just feel that if we at least start that dialogue, and say, wait a minute, we're using this word. You know, what does this word really mean, and why are we using it, and how did it come into play? Let's just question that. You know, let's do some homework, and then let's see where it comes from, and then let's see if that's we still want to use that word.
Right.
You know, ¿me entiendes? I don't know. I always use the analogy. I feel, and I have friends of different ethnicities.
Right.
But people like in Asia, they'll call themselves Asians, but they don't identify with a European invader. I mean, you had the British, you know, French, you know, you had all these European countries that invaded Asia, you know, and they don't identify, well, I'm French, Japanese, or, you know, whatever, you know, it sounds silly, right?
Yeah.
I have friends that are African, you know, they identify themselves the same way. But, well, I'm from, you know, Angola or what have you, you know. But just because we speak in a language doesn't necessarily mean, well, that's how I identify myself. I mean, should I identify myself English? We're speaking English. Well, that would be silly.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes we minimize that. We just say, well, just, you know what I mean. I get it. We're living in a society that, you know, all these words were here before us, you know, Hispanic, Latino, Latin. And so, but it's okay to question it, I think.
Yeah.
You know, and that's all I'm trying to do, stir up the pot a little bit. Man.
I was watching a video the other day where I was telling your wife that a gentleman was making fun of the word Latinos. The Europeans kind of laugh at people here because Latin to them is tied to the language, which is Europe, and we're not over there. We're over here.
Right.
And of course, you know, the labels and the names, but I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah.
I'm gonna send it to Carlos. Maybe he can clip a piece of it. I'm like, oh my God, that's even the word. You know, it's just what it is. Do you consider yourself Latino? What is better for you? If I'm not mistaken, I heard more Xicano.
Yeah, you know, and this, híjole, now this is another interesting word, ¿verdad?
Sí.
Because to our Mexicano family, you know, that's a derogatory word. You know, I hear it, I've heard it. You know, un Chicano is un malandro, is, you know,
Marihuano.
vale madre, you know, whatever else. And
Huevón, because when I heard, I'm not native here. I got here when I was 11.
Uh-huh.
But some of the words that I heard growing up with my tíos Mexicanos, que son bien huevones.
Yeah.
I'm like, I didn't know. They just keep telling that that's how they are. I'm like, oh, I guess that's how they are.
And I think though that if we look at the power of the word, like to me, again, my opinion,
of course,
the essence of the word in the 60s and the 70s, and even to this day, you know, it's a conscious Mexicano. You know, it's a Mexicano that navigates two cultures. Yo puedo hablar español, si voy a México, también me puedo defender ahí con el idioma. Or if I'm here, I can speak fluently and defend myself. Yo conozco la historia de Mexico, and I know the history of this country. I have been walking the two worlds, so to speak. And yeah, just like in any people, you have your traviesos, vamos a decir eso.
Claro.
But Chicano to me is a word of consciousness. You know, that's how I like to say it, as someone that is of Mexican descent, that is conscious of their ethnicity, of their roots, of their heritage, of their history, and proud of it.
All right.
¿Me entiendes? And so, I don't know. That's kind of how I see it.
One of the one of the interviews that I seen you talk about, a Chicano also will be somebody that's an activist or something along those lines, right?
Yeah, I think, like, for example, you know, ahorita estamos que dicen el border crisis.
Yes.
Pues the border crisis has been around for how long? 100 years? You know, 300 years, 500 years?
Yeah.
We've had a border crisis 500 years ago. Pero es lo mismo. And who is at the front lines? Who are the people that are organizing, putting together events, preparing the community, giving them information about, you know, these are things that you can do to defend yourself. This is how you navigate the U.S. system, etc. Pues Chicano attorneys, Chicano activists, Chicano professors, Chicano people. They're spearheading this. You know, we have been spearheading this. And so, you know, that's something that, you know, should be acknowledged. I don't know that it is, you know, and how appropriate that we're talking about this,
right?
As I mentioned to you today, February 2nd, 1848, the signing of the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo that gave the U.S. the entire Southwest, what some of us Chicano refer to as Aztlán, from California all the way to Texas. Now, to be fair, the U.S. took it and stole it fair and square, like one of my professors used to say. Stole it fair and square. And here we are, February 2nd, 1848. And we, several articles were removed from that treaty. And not coincidentally, and we have this border crisis that is tied to that, you know, that the U.S. government agreed to honor, you know, those of us that were from, quote unquote, Mexico back then, Texas y Coahuila, for example, what it was called. And well, now we have not only was the treaty not honored, but now we have a border crisis that is closely linked to that. You know, there's several articles. I don't want to go into detail because, one, I'm not a constitutional lawyer or a treaty lawyer or anything like that. But let's just say that promises were not kept. And without getting into too much mess, you know, it always feels like we're always militarizing the South, ¿verdad? From California through Mexico,
right,
all the way to Texas. They go, military, send more agents, get drones, que no sé qué más. I'd like to know what's happening on the Canadian border. I'd like to know, is there any military up there? And I'm not a geographer, but the border up north looks a lot bigger than the border on the south.
Right.
And I'm sure there's some information out there. But how many illegal Canadians are here? We never hear about them on the news. Probably because they can blend in, but they can blend in real quick.
Yeah.
Pero I don't know. It's just a lot of noise. And really, at the end of the day, this is just probably in my opinion, just political posturing. You know, you get folks riled up about the border. You want to get attention, start talking about the border, start talking about, different things like that, and it gets people
You
riled
get
up.
to scare people, and then they
Sure.
wanted to support somebody that's talking about coming up with a solution
Right.
that can help them keep avoiding people from taking their jobs. That they don't want to
that's right.
keep the jobs that they don't want to do.
That they don't want to do. That they don't want to
Just
do.
saying.
Right.
Okay. Real simple. Try to explain to me, like, without getting too deep. How was it that it wasn't honored and it was fairly stolen? Is it that there was things that were removed?
Yeah.
What else?
Well, the U.S. offered to buy part of the Southwest,
Mm-hmm.
and Mexico refused.
Mm-hmm.
So then shots were fired.
Quote unquote.
On the border somewhere.
Yeah.
Was when those shots were fired, a war ensued. Okay? So here's an analogy. Let's say you have a nice watch there. Let's say that watch belonged to your great grandfather.
Mm-hmm.
And I come up to you and I say, hey, I'll give you $20. Would you sell that to me?
No.
Right. Why would you not sell it to me?
Because it's got history.
It's got
tied
value.
to my roots.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But if I came back to you with a gun to your forehead and then I said, give me your watch, you would probably give it to me.
98%.
Right? Yeah.
I will. Maybe some Indio dumb.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
terco can like, no, but for the most part, sí te lo
Right.
daría.
Now, if I took the watch and as I'm walking away, I gave you $20, did I buy your watch?
Kind of.
Kind of.
Como que you don't make me feel too bad. At least I got $20, but I ain't got my watch no more.
Well, that's how I feel. That's how I see that.
Yeah.
Did you approach me about selling your watch?
No.
No, I approached you.
Yeah. Forcefully.
Forcefully.
Yeah.
And coercively. With weapons.
Yeah.
And you didn't have a weapon. You weren't, ready to do that. And, that's in my opinion, it's simple fact. That's what occurred. Historians can tell you that the Mexico was just trying to gather itself, get themselves together, and then here comes this huge military to come in and invade and take. And then they justify it at the end by saying, well, we paid this and that. Just like I paid to steal your watch, because to me, I stole your watch.
Yeah.
Even though I gave you $20.
Yeah.
So I say it as a joke, but it's, it was stolen fair and square. It's kind of an oxymoron or kind of a silly sign, pero, and there's lots of land, and like no different, and I'm not an expert on this, but the little that I do know, the little that I read and researched, the whole situation in Gaza.
Mm-hmm.
You have families there that have been there, I don't know how long, but super long time.
Right.
And then after World War II, we're going to create a state of Israel right here. And then little by little, these people are losing their land, getting displaced, corralled, and right now, I haven't seen the news lately because it gives me a headache, but last time I checked, over 25,000 Palestinians have been murdered, including children.
Mm-hmm.
And how is that a fair fight when Palestine doesn't even have a standing military?
Yeah.
Against Air Force, a Navy, Army with technology. I mean, coming in. So it's very similar,
Right,
to what happened to us, here in the U.S.
Should have sold the watch.
So yeah, that's kind of our connection.
Do you think somewhere even rooted there's some kind of guilt that makes the U.S. send more people to the border to protect them more because they know somewhere deep that it was an unfair deal, even though it was a deal?
Man, I wish I knew the answer. I mean, I can only guess, but I can only give you an opinion, of course, not based on any fact. The the border, I've talked to older folks. I've talked to elders that have said they remember crossing the border not needing any documents.
Yeah.
They remember going to work and then coming back and going to work and vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
And then as populations grew, things got politicized. Que we need a border, que es, que lo otro. Well, sure, now they say que human trafficking, que los narcos, que eso, que lo otro. Well, I'm sure that's true.
Right.
But I would also guess or bet
Mm-hmm.
that 95% of the people are not involved in that.
Right.
Even 99%. I don't have an exact number. So what's really going on? ¿Entiendes? So I don't know. I just feel like there is a solution if we want it. If people put these false political statements aside and do the research, there's been too much research done that people that arrive from other countries really appreciate what's offered here
Mm-hmm.
and are successful. I dare say yourself, where were you born?
Mexico.
And look at you.
Yeah.
Fíjate. I mean, you are a perfect example of people that are not born from here. They're born in Mexico, but what was the term a president used? You would be considered a bad hombre. Eh?
So you say hombre, no hombre.
But
Be hungry.
Yeah, but here you are, successful and having this show and everything.
Yeah.
And this is a very type of people that we would have labeled as bad hombres, and so it's political. I mean, I don't know what else to say.
It is. But the crazy thing is that the way that they put it on the news or the opinion channels, it looks like a news station, news channel over and over and over and over. And it works because, okay, so it works for the radio because they do it like that on like songs, right? You put a song in, brand new song, you play it for the first time, like, it's all right, whatever. Play it a few more times, you get into your car, listen to the same song 5, 6, 7 times. Oh my God, this is my favorite song. Right. Same thing that they're telling them right now. They play the same thing over and over before they know it. They start believing that there is people coming over to take your jobs. Even though you don't want to be a dishwasher. Even though you don't want to go out to the fields and pick whatever vegetables or fruits or whatever the case. You don't want to.
Right.
They tried it before. There's people, there's states that came in, swept everybody out. Like, hey, we're not gonna have any illegals. Guess what happened to the harvest? Died.
Right.
Nobody collected.
Right.
You don't want to do that type of labor. Keep pretending like you do. You don't want to be out in the sun fixing the roof.
Right.
You don't want to be
right
on the construction sites. Be honest. You don't want to. Right. You need somebody. And it's by default that these big corporations want cheap labor. And that's the reason why there's a lot of it goes outsourced, China or Mexico, whatever, cheaper labor so you can get higher profits.
Right.
Like,
yeah. And I dare say, and I'll put this challenge out to whoever sees or hears this show that we're doing, those highly successful Latinos, Hispanics, come to the defense. Use your wealth to help your people out. Use your sphere of influence,
right?
To help. I don't know. It just feels like sometimes we get successful. And it's like, ooh, that's not my problem anymore. I mean, I already got over that. Entonces, now, I'm not saying everybody.
Right.
I'm just saying that sometimes it feels some people are like that. And it would be really inspiring, to use the word, of community of powerful, wealthy. And we do have groups that do that.
We do have.
We have groups that do that. But it'd be everybody in. To say, hey, okay, we want to be part of the solution.
Right.
You know what I mean? Let's address Congress or what have you. Whatever can be done and say, you know what? Yo tengo tíos in Mexico. Yo tengo familia. I need to step up. Right. I made it here. I'm successful. Let me pay it back. You know what I mean? I don't know. Pipe dream, pero ahí estamos.
The ones that I just don't understand, even if I I'm trying to see it through the lenses that I'm trying to empathize with them.
Yeah.
But the ones that came from immigrant parents or even themselves were immigrants, they became correct, got their citizenship established, and all of a sudden they want to close the border, so they don't want that. I can't wrap around it. I don't see which way, how, flip it upside down and see how that makes sense. That at one time they didn't want you here.
Right.
And now you're here correctly. And now all of a sudden you don't want the rest to come in. There's plenty, and there was plenty for you when you got here illegally and you crossed, and all of a sudden you just like, you got brainwashed to thinking that all of a sudden the younger you that's trying to come over, you're trying to stop.
Yes.
Like, dude, I can't wrap my head. How is that possible? How does that mentality switch to somebody like that? They don't want that. I just don't get it. I don't.
Man,
do you know the answer?
Well, if I did, I'd be a millionaire, no? A billionaire or something.
I truly don't get it. I really don't. I wrap myself, rethink it. Nope.
I have a statement that is, well, to me, not controversial, but it is controversial.
Uh-huh.
And they say that money whitens.
Ah.
And what does that mean? It means that you dissociate, ¿verdad? You dissociate from your past. In fact, I know some people that are embarrassed or ashamed of their past, and they pretend that never existed.
Yeah.
They're dissociated from that. No, hombre, yo nunca trabajaba allí, ¿cómo crees? You know, whatever. I don't know why. I don't understand that. To me, I think it's you should be proud. You know, the Hindus have the lotus flower that they honor and are acknowledge as a beautiful thing. It grows from mud and murky water, and it shoots out, and it's a beautiful flower.
Yeah.
Yet it originates from muck, and mud.
Yeah.
But I think that's a beautiful metaphor. I'm not here to say that I know about Hindu culture. I'm just here to say about the lotus flower as explained to me.
Yeah.
And I see that metaphor, and I'm like, why don't we embrace that more? ¿Entiendes? Instead of trying to disassociate or chale, you know, that wasn't me, you know. I had a lady once, una amiga que, ¿qué son esas bolitas? And I was like, son frijoles. Oh, sí, ya me acuerdo. I was like, por favor.
See, now that you explain it that way, it makes me more empathetic towards the fact that there is people that have blockages that they don't want to relive, and it was so horrible that they want to disconnect from it, which I get it, but you're right. That's not reality, right?
Yeah, I guess that's like, without me, the way you said it now, that's kind of like my, I guess, former counseling part coming out, and I'm kind of trying to give a logical explanation, but I mean, that's how I feel. That's what I've seen, you know, and I don't have any evidence, you know, to prove that or not, pero it just feels that way, you know, in talking to different people, you know, and we all have it in all our families and friends y todo eso, and it's like, huh, okay, well, ¿qué podemos hacer?
Yeah.
You know?
Can't change them, but
I
guess you can love them from a distance. All right. So, will you, Chicano is more something that you feel more towards the word that for you?
Yeah.
A human being, do you think maybe more? Or Chicano is more proud that you feel like it's more tied to the way that you want to be identified as?
Yeah, it's interesting because I was taught this by an elder. Que we're spirits in a human suit.
Right.
So really, if I was going to truly identify myself, I said, well, I'm a spirit in a human suit. And this is the color that they gave me in this suit.
Right.
¿Entiendes? But like the first thing that comes to my mind when as, you know, to identify whatever, was, you know, I feel like, I'm Chicano indigenous, you know, indigenous Chicano or however. And really, really to me, it's kind of like the same thing. Pero, pues, you know, they're interchangeable in a sense to a degree. For me. And so I feel comfortable using either one. I think that you said feel human or be human. I think the most human thing you can do is to help others. And I think that's what it is to be Chicano, is to help others.
Right.
And what what else is more human than that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
somewhere in there is the answer.
I like because even before, whenever I started, like I met you, I had talked to Chicanos. I have research about the brown berets. I thought it was super interested that the Mexicanos don't want you because you're less because you're not born in Mexico, and then the American people, they just see you as another Mexican, and you're just right here literally on limbo. And then instead of, there's the meaning title, but then there's the empowerment part too. But then the way you said it is so beautiful because you get to, some Chicanos know more about the Mexican culture, the Mexican like history, individuals that have been through history more than the actual Mexicans. And then of course the American part, you just have to learn it too. And then you know the music, then you know both musics, and then your brain's just doing different things from both sides. And it's great how y'all be able to juggle both sides. And be able to, I feel like you said, it is empowering to be able to be and be able to maneuver through those, like at any time that you wanted to, through those cultures, both of them.
Funny story, true story that inspired me in my Chicano-ness. And I also look at Chicano too, like, like a veces somos mensos, like, that's everybody, right? It's like, yo te truje, we'll invent words like it's going out of style, you know what I mean? La troca, parquea, we got a list of words, huh? For me, they exist, pero guacha, So,
it's true.
But one time, I was at El Centro College. And I was taking a Mexican-American history class, or a history of Mexico, más bien.
Sí.
And I was probably the only Chicano. There may have been one or two Mexicanos. Y los demás eran güeros, gringos. And maybe one or two African American, tú sabes, así. And I remember being in that class. Y la profesora, right, would ask a question or this and that. Y el güerito raised his hand. Oh, pues es que es this, that. Y la güerita acá. And I remember just looking like, man, yo no sé nada. Like, bien burro. Like, seriously, I said, man, I don't know jack squat here, man.
Yeah.
So I said, chale con eso, man. That'll never happen to me again.
Yeah.
And I got to work. I got to work to learn what is the history of me. What does it mean to be Chicano?
Right.
And I don't claim to be an expert or anything. I just can tell you that firsthand, I wanted to know what that was.
Yeah.
Because what is a Mexicano? What is a Chicano? And why is it that word? ¿Entiendes? And so that stimulated that thought. And I felt like going back to the original opening about words have power. I felt like, well, I'm using this word and they call me this word. What the heck does it mean? You know what I mean?
Right.
And so, but it was that class when I sat in there and looked around and everybody knew about Mexico except the Chicano.
Yeah. Well, you went into the right environment, right? Because a lot of people feel weird about saying, I don't know. Like, I don't know. They don't want to feel like dumb, right?
Yeah.
But the possibility of you learning because you don't know is awesome. You open the doors to know a whole bunch of other stuff that you didn't know, and you got to work.
Yeah.
And now you know more than a lot of people know, you know what I mean? Okay, but that's interesting to know because your dad was you had a strange relationship with that, right? Because at one time you didn't even want to associate yourself with maybe Mexican or anything or have anything to do with that part?
Sure. When we're little, the first thing we want to do is assimilate because that's the right thing to do. If it ain't white, it ain't right. Star Spangled Banner, y a Pledge of Allegiance, todo eso. They would ram it down your throat in elementary and so on.
Right.
And so I'm falling in line. I'm following everything, the good old USA. But Dallas in the 70s, mid to late 70s, early 80s, it was an interesting place for Mexicanos and Chicanos, especially driving through Highland Park.
Really?
You know what I mean? Especially the skinheads que dominated Deep Ellum.
Really?
So a lot of people don't remember those moments because they didn't have to worry about it. But those of us that traveled and moved around were like, ah, caramba. You got to be careful. Don't go through there.
Right.
Don't go over here. Yeah, etc. And so, that creates a consciousness, and it goes to what am I, and why is there animosity to what I am, and why was there ridicule of eating a burrito for breakfast or
Right,
you're a
right.
taco, and you see the movies que salieron or that come out, right? We just saw the one with the astronaut. I don't remember A Million Miles Away, I believe it's called.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic movie. And le daba pena al muchacho who became the astronaut
Mm-hmm.
of eating burritos because everybody ate sandwiches. And it's like, oh, I remember that, because it's like that's what you're supposed to be eating,
Yeah.
because we want to emulate and assimilate, ¿me
Right.
entiendes? And so, but then some of us get stuck there and stay there,
Yeah.
and it's not easy. And people like myself, because I'm not unique, we decided that we're gonna work a little bit harder,
Mm-hmm.
and we're gonna push a little bit more, and we're gonna be more on take more pride in who we are and what our culture, what our identity is, etc. And so, but it starts off, I guess you could say with self-hate.
Right.
It slowly, at least that's how I reflect on it, ¿verdad? You're slowly being taught with the messages, right? What is beauty? Well, blonde and blue eyes. And what is good? No, pues pot roast or whatever. I like all of those,
Mm-hmm.
but all of those things are up here, right? This is what we're strived to be
Right.
or taught to strive to be, because what we are is down here. ¿Entiendes?
Yeah.
At least that's how I saw it, or I see it, and I believe it. If we open up any magazine or anything that's considered, beauty or excellent, I go back, it's defined by European, within a European context.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I feel, and that's how I see it now. Let's go back one more thing. I want to include one more thing. When we look at architecture, I love Greco-Roman architecture, those kind of things,
Right.
but that's considered like the pinnacle. We have architecture too,
Mm-hmm.
and it's beautiful. It's older than most of theirs. It's not as revered or as sophisticated. If you want something that's sophisticated, then it's got to be tied back to something European based.
Right.
And I'm giving like an example, but of that. But once you kind of like, I guess, get this consciousness, not paranoia, okay, but this consciousness,
Right.
you start seeing that, whoa, there's a whole game going on here. There's a system here in place. There's
Yeah.
something weird going on here. ¿Me entiendes?
Right.
You know what I mean? And I think it's funny that it's coming full circle, ¿verdad? When you talk about salsa replacing ketchup as the number one condiment, and you talk about, margarita time, now,
Taco Tuesday.
Andale, Taco Tuesday, you start looking back and it's like, está dando la vuelta, right? And that's a plus.
Yeah.
So I look at that, but it's just funny how, at one time, all these things that are cool now, they weren't always cool.
Right.
You know.
It's crazy to go through those times because again, I saw a little bit in the 90s,
Yeah.
a little bit of it, and maybe I was too naive, didn't even know the language to understand I was getting offended or whatever. But it's
Yeah.
crazy to know the language, know the feeling, and know that they're insulting you, they're calling you names, and you're like, how do I maneuver through this?
Yeah.
How do I get away? How do I stay clear of getting myself in trouble because my pride gets in the way? I'm trying to defend my honor because they're calling me this,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and then it's crazy.
Man, it's wild, man. I remember one time in college, bro, me dijeron una vez, man, you're pretty smart for a Mexican. Y yo de medio, I was like, oh, thank you. And then later on, I started thinking like, wait a minute, what'd they say? Pero those kinds of things happen,
Yeah.
and it's like, we can't be fighting every day, every minute, every hour. Imagínate. That's
Yeah.
exhausting. But it's good to reflect and acknowledge that those things happen and say, okay, what can we do about it?
Right.
And like, well, we're doing something about it right now. We're talking
We're
about
talking about it,
bringing some
absolutely.
awareness to it,
Okay, let's talk a lot about the Danza Azteca.
Yeah.
So if I recall correctly, you were going to school at college. That's how you kind of sort of got into or started seeing it with your cousin and a couple other friends.
Yeah. So basically, like, I was studying a lot of history, like I mentioned, and
Mm-hmm.
anthropology, todo. And I was like, man, this is cool. And we would go to Xicano events, Mexican events, y llegaban los danzantes, and we're like, whoa, man, that's cool, tambor y todo. And I respected it. I would feel like something in my chest,
Really?
pero no me llamaba in terms of participating in it.
Mm-hmm.
And but I just a lot of reverence for it. And then I don't know, a year or two passed by or something, and I decided to participate. And as I started learning, I started seeing and learning some of the deeper meaning. And I started seeing that, this is an opportunity to um, take pride in our culture,
Mm-hmm.
to invite peoples to come and take pride in their culture, and to continue passing these traditions, and the heritage. And in a way, a positive way, I think,
Yes.
to show to everybody, we're still here. You know, we have never left. You can call it America, you can call it Texas, whatever you want to call it, but we're still here.
Mm-hmm.
And we're gonna continue being here, and we're gonna flourish. And now the beautiful thing about the danza is that it works on so many positive levels.
I know that you are definitely enjoying this episode today. Subscribe to the channel, leave us a comment, give us a thumbs up, and now back to the episode.
You saw it. You were
Right.
there.
Absolutely.
Cardio is a good workout.
Absolutely.
That's all. So you get your nice, good workout. Then you have your community building, right? Different folks from different places that are interested and want to join.
Mm-hmm.
So they come in. Y luego a veces llega la gente de México. Yo me acuerdo cuando estaba chiquito, yo miraba la danza, da, 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 da. And, se animan a participar, right? So you would have that. And so really at the end of the day, I guess for me, I see it as an opportunity to build community
Mm-hmm.
culturally,
Right.
and doing something positive. So that's kind of how I see that.
Do you remember the very first time when you went and actually danced? What was the feeling like at that time?
Well, it's a feeling of confusion because I'm not a dancer. It was, híjole, not maybe 6, 8 months later, my wife joined the danza, and she was picking it up like, no, vaya le gusta bailar, So I was like, a ver cómo va otra vez, and stuff like that, but little by little with patience, because I don't see myself as a dancer,
Right.
pero I try. But to me, it's the essence of it, like what it represents and what it means, that we're doing something that has been passed down generation in a way that honors our ancestors, that honors our culture, that honors our tradition. And so even though I wasn't good at it, and I don't pretend to say that I am now,
Mm-hmm.
that never leaves me. ¿Me entiendes? And so
Right.
it's like, le echo ganas.
But now you're the actual leader of the grupo,
My
right?
wife and I
Mhm.
are leaders of a danza grupo here in Dallas.
And one more time, the name?
Mitotiliztli Yaoyollohtli, which
Mhm.
means Corazón de Guerrero or Heart of the Warrior.
Okay.
And we use that name intentionally because we felt like we may not have skill or knowledge, but we got heart.
Right, right.
And so we were going to fight to learn and keep our traditions alive.
Okay.
And, we've been lucky, my daughter's here, so she's been dancing since she was yay big.
Wow.
My other kids también, and then we have sobrino and sister and other family members that participated, and other families
Mm-hmm.
that have joined our circle.
Awesome.
So we take great pride in that. And the last thing I want to say about that is also that we have a direct connection to el Distrito Federal, where I want to honor our maestro Daniel Rodriguez Cerritos and his
Mhm.
wife Amelia. And he has been dancing, man, I'm gonna guess 60 years.
Wow.
Pero his parents and his grandparents were danzantes too.
Wow.
So I don't know. I may not be the best guy in math, but that's a lot of years of
That's quite a
lineage
bit.
and everything. And so we are directly associated with the group there. He was our maestro, taught us all that we know, and hopefully we're being good stewards, but of keeping those traditions alive. You know.
What did it mean to you whenever you started understanding that there's more just the dancing, that it actually meant something? And can you let us know what some of those dances actually mean to do or be part of it?
You know, it's funny because like we practice once a week,
Mm-hmm.
but a veces twice a week.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you ask any danzante that for that hour, that 2 hours, we're like floating. Like there's no problems, there's no worries. Like we're all in unison together. And that's a very like peaceful feeling. You know what
Right.
I mean? It's a feeling of just tranquility, I guess you could say. You know, we're dancing, the drum is going, you know, these worries and concerns aren't there. And so I think that goes to the community building part, right?
Mm-hmm.
That reinforces that. Now, we do have a multitude of danzas. And by the way, different areas of Mexico have their danzas.
Mm.
And we may call a danza like fuego, and we do it this way. But maybe you go to Guanajuato and they do fuego their way, a
Their
different
way.
way.
Mm-hmm.
No one is right and no one is wrong. That's the way they do it, and this is the way we do it, you know?
Right.
And so we have a lot of those danzas. We have danzas that honor elements, right? Like fuego,
Mm-hmm.
¿verdad? El sol, right? We have danzas that honor animals, venado, right? We have danzas that honor different nations or tribes, Apache, Chichimeca. And so those dances, you'll see movements that give tribute, ¿verdad? To whatever that entity is. You know, the venado, you'll see some kicks and spins like that, like a deer would do.
Wow.
And on the way up here, my daughter Destiny was talking about a caballo.
Mm-hmm.
We do a horse dance,
Right.
and we kind of imitate a horse. I don't know that you'll see us and you'll be like, "Oh, that's a horse," pero
Could be a donkey.
right?
No, just kidding.
Ándale.
Un
Pero
burrito.
we try to emulate and honor, ¿verdad? And that particular danza is el caballo.
Why would you want to do those dances for that particular entity or whatever it is? What is the importance behind it?
Well, since we're talking about caballo, shoot, that was a beast of burden for how long? That's how people traveled.
Mm-hmm.
That's how people hunted. That's how people, got resources. So it was a very sacred animal to a lot of indigenous people. And so I think that kind of speaks for itself, in that we're going to honor that animal. The deer, we could say, provided us fur, provided us food,
Right.
and things like that, tools, with the antlers and whatnot. So we honor that creature by a dance.
So it's sort of like a form of super deep gratitude for what they did,
Yeah.
for the life, for the everything that they provided to your family, so you can continue moving, whether it be their meat, their fur, and everything else.
Sure. I mean, imagine like there's a danza called sol.
Mm.
And I don't know about you, but in the winter times, my wife is not a fan of the winter.
I'm
And-
team summer too. I like the summertime too.
And part of the reason, right, it's cloudy.
Yeah.
Está frío, aparte de que está frío, it's cloudy. And there is something about when the sun's not out, we're all kind of like zombie-ish kind of, you know what I mean?
Yeah, true.
Well, damos gracias al sol. We're the sun gives us warmth and comfort, helps the plants grow. So those kinds of things,
Right,
So we're
right.
we're showing gratitude,
Yeah. That's
stuff
cool.
like that. Yeah.
I always thought, I mean, people can confuse to like you worship and idolizing or whatever the case might
Yeah.
be. Some people might not get it confused, but I think it's better to simplify that. Why wouldn't you want to be grateful for the fact or give thank you or pay some respects to an animal, the sun, water, because they're here to keep you going. Without it, you'll be gone.
Well, think about this now. I think people are really understanding through climate change, the importance of being thankful for water, these thankful for the earth, the lands,
Right.
I mean, I don't remember lots of Arctic fronts when I was younger, but now they're coming
All the time.
and all we got to do is look at, fires, tornadoes, que eso, que lo otro. I'm not a scientist,
Right.
pero man, I know our people were always respectful and appreciative of the land and its resources, and we try to treat it like in a form that it was reciprocal, ¿verdad?
Right.
I use the analogy of the tree. The tree huggers, que quién sabe qué. Well, my understanding is that trees breathe out oxygen, but they breathe in carbon dioxide. We breathe in oxygen and we breathe out.
Like a cycle.
Is that a coincidence? I don't think so. But by not respecting trees, in a sense, ¿verdad? We're not respecting ourselves because this is a life source. That we have a relationship that is a harmonious relationship.
Right.
Whatever belief system you want to believe, religion, that's fine. But understand that there's a system on this earth
Right.
where we all balance each other out and we're supposed to live harmoniously.
Right.
And if one tries to overtake the other, then we get consequences that I believe unfavorable to all.
Right.
You with me?
It's not in balance.
Right.
It only makes sense, even logically speaking. Just things that are not balanced. There's consequences, like you said.
Yeah.
Of that.
Yeah.
Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so you were also formed the Native American church, or you're part of, you're a member, or how does that work exactly?
So Kalpulli Tonalpilli, which means the simplest way, I guess we would say, is church of the precious son, right? Or children of the precious son, church. But by doing our ceremonies, that kind of falls under that umbrella, just like a regular church, right? You have your church to do the services, but in that church, you may have architects, policemen, whatever.
Right.
They're just part of that church and they participate in that, ritual of church.
Gotcha.
Well, it's the same thing. We have this quote unquote indigenous church where we do our ceremonies like a temazcal. And we have people that don't necessarily do danza or things like that, but they want to participate in those kinds of ceremonies, and they're welcome, and they do. So that's how we just said, you know what? It's not a formal place because we don't have that, unfortunately, and that's the goal. That's a dream,
right?
To have our own center where we could have a place to have our ceremonies, to have our danza practice or presentations, and to do community gardening and things like that, right? That's the dream one day. But just to kind of delineate, right, that the church is to practice those ceremonies, and the danza has their ceremonies, but usually the danza itself is the ceremony. And that's what allows us to go out in the public, right, and kind of give snippets of what we're doing, in terms of the culture.
Yeah, you look amazing. I watched you a few times, and
thank you.
Even the cardio itself, man. I got tired just watching it one time. I'm like, man, they can really go. And then the drums. I don't know why. I'm not saying I'm the drum or whatever, but I get a lot of. I'll be always doing this. Like, I feel like I know. One of these days I try the drums.
Andale.
I go with y'all because I really feel like I think I'll be pretty good. Maybe, like whenever you're watching football, you think you're really going to be good, but just like that's not the case. Well, maybe one of these days I check it out.
Heck yeah, for sure.
I appreciate you sharing that. But you were also, if I'm not mistaken, a tribe, I don't know if it was Dakota, one of them that really kind of sort of embraced you or embraced the Mexicanos at one time that you were mentioning.
Yeah. So the Lakota people, that currently reside in South Dakota area and those places around there. They have been very receptive to Chicanos and Mexicanos.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, a lot of, unfortunately, it goes back to this whole craziness, but a lot of other nations would kind of like see us as, you're just a Mexicano or whatever.
Right.
You know, want to be Indian or whatever. Pretendian, I think that's a word they would use.
Tendian?
Pretendian.
All right.
Pretendian.
Ah,
Yeah, that's a new word,
It's a new word.
Entonces, but the Lakota had seen us as, oh, no, you're our brothers. You're our
Right.
sisters, you know.
Right.
And they have embraced us. And since at least the 70s that I know of, probably further back, but for sure I can at least say about the 70s. And they have shared ceremonies with us and taught us some of the ceremonies. And man, my wife and I went to Pine Ridge,
Mm-hmm.
South Dakota.
Mm-hmm.
It's on Lakota Nation.
Right.
Y we were walking around, looking around, and we couldn't tell who was Mexican and who was Lakota.
You mentioned you made a reference that you made me feel like you were in Oak Cliff or
Ándale.
something like that. Porque pura raza.
Pura raza, man. and when we got there, we're like, ¿Qué huele? And he goes, oh, I'm not Mexican. And then we talked to the Mexicano, like, hey, how you doing? Okay. You know, it was like, so we couldn't tell who was
That's
who. And
funny.
we had a good experience. And then some of the people shared that a lot of Mexicanos had come into that particular area and have intermarried and have grown and stuff like that. So that's a cool thing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right. Let's talk about a little bit. I was curious about, you were a counselor for a long time.
Yeah.
You did counseling, but one of the things that resonated with me was the substance abuse
Yeah.
counseling. Why were you focused on that area? What made you? What
Man.
took you there? What made you interested in that?
Man, I'll tell you what. The more you plan something,
Mm-hmm.
the more the plans make you, you know. You
That's
know
a
what I
good
mean?
one.
I'm learning that more and more every day. You know, I
Mhm.
have all these plans, and then it's like, nah, you're going to go do this instead.
Mm-hmm.
But an extremely long story short is, as I was studying history and culture and stuff like that, I'd be on the porch and I'd watch all the chavalitos, you know, with their bandanas y dickies y todos loquillos ahí, you know,
Yeah.
gangs, y, como dicen, echando sus churros, y sus gallos and all that.
Uh-huh.
And I was a soccer player. So that wasn't my thing in terms of like using, like that wasn't really, sí, me tomaba mis cervezas or whatever,
Mhm.
but like la droga just never really got to me. And I had a friend that was there one day and says, you know, because I would always talk to the kids that were walking by.
Right.
They're like, hey, you should be a counselor. And I was like, why? And then she goes, well, you're already doing it. You might as well get paid. And I was
Right.
like, hey man, we gotta eat, right? So
Of course.
so we gotta, I was like, well, let me look into that. So I started looking into that. So and it was interesting because like I learned when working with teenagers, mostly high school kids,
Mhm.
like I'm like a lot of people where it's really easy to see, for example, homeless people and say, ay, que asco, or whatever else.
Mhm.
But I challenge anybody. Let's see who they were before they got there.
Right.
Let's see what happened for them to get there.
Right.
And that's what I learned in substance abuse.
Mhm.
We could say, oh, que estos mendigo huercos or whatever. But let's see what happened. How did they get there? They weren't always like that.
Mhm.
I see a picture when they were 5 and 6, sitting on Santa's lap and laughing and all that. And now they're over here gangbanging or whatever it is.
Right.
Something happened. Entonces, well, that something is really tough. You know, it could be a family trauma. It can be violence. I mean, it can be a million things.
Abuse, everything else that
right.
happens, sexual abuse, all kinds of stuff that.
And so I learned now that when you have people that, and I'm not saying everybody, right? But when you have people that are using like those things, there's probably something traumatic or problematic that happened.
Mhm.
And just like if somebody walks in having a heart attack, should we say, stop eating carne asada so much. No, we don't judge them, right?
Right.
But we do judge those types of people that are drug addicts and et cetera. Because I'm and guilty as charged. You know, we see that and we're like, oh, that's crazy. That's bad. Y eso que el otro. But we don't necessarily see how and what happened for them to get to that point. You see what I'm saying? So that's, I kind of told you why I got involved, because it was like not my plan. But once I got involved, I started learning and seeing that dynamic, and I was like, man, this is it was hard. It was, but I was like, well, I'm here for a reason, and I'm the kind of person that when I'm involved in something, I'm gonna echarle ganas to do my part.
Yeah.
And hopefully I did my part, and that's what I did.
That's,
you know,
that's amazing.
Thank you.
That because it is easier for you to be able to judge them or just say they're addict instead of like they're a person with issues that they're struggling with. Once you label them that way, then just like easier to dismiss.
Sure.
Instead of like
less work.
What happened to them.
Yeah. You explain it away. Vámonos.
That's good.
Throw them in jail. You know, that's when we said the war on drugs.
Yeah.
Throw them in jail, you know, and stuff like that. And it's like, now I'm not here to say that if you commit a crime, you know, you should go unpunished. That's not at all what I'm saying.
Right.
But what I am saying is that we need to look at the lens of, I had a tribal elder tell me, instead of waging war on drugs, why don't we wage healing? Let's wage healing on drugs. Let's wage healing on whatever issues affect us as a people.
Right.
And that's a powerful concept if you really stop and think about it. War has all these connotations, right? Violence, tanks, guns, and we're gonna eradicate. You can say okay, but healing, man, that looks and sounds like, for me, it looks and sounds really different.
Yeah.
You know,
it's a different approach. More peaceful. More of wanting to help instead of wanting to destroy.
Right.
And
it's and I think it's also more long term.
Absolutely.
You know.
So recently you've been doing real estate. How did that come about for you?
Yeah. I entered my 10th year. You know, it actually ties into the counseling question. You know, frankly, I got tired of going to funerals. You know, the cheese epidemic in the 2000s was really hard. Heroin. And then, you know, now it's fentanyl, ¿verdad? Pero I started seeing these young kids and going to funerals, and where I used to go to one funeral every 5 years or something like that, because I was averaging a couple a year.
Jesus.
And I'm not gonna sit here and tell you it didn't affect me.
Of course.
You know, it was very impactful on me. You know, I have children. You know, I shouldn't be seeing children in a casket. It should be the other way around. And so it was exhausting. It was emotionally draining. And I said, you know, it was my time. Like, I knew it was my time.
Right.
You know, to go. It was probably my time, you know, because my wife would talk to me about it. I think my time was 5 years before.
You can see it affecting you in your daily life.
Yeah.
Because again, you build some kind of a connection. You get to know these people personally, try to help them out, try to see the best of them, try to, you know that they're better than that you know they have issues, but you still, at the end, you couldn't get to them, and then it stopped.
Well, just like you and I are sitting here. And I would be sitting, you know, with a young person, and you know, a drive-by, you know, an overdose, a suicide, you know, and I, you know, just like I see you, and I could pat you in the back. I mean, that we used to do those things,
right?
And now we're not, and you know, that was just. That was heavy, you know. And,
absolutely.
And not only was it heavy, I'm gonna be honest here, boy, I'm gonna get in all kinds of trouble. You know, I didn't like the way schools addressed that. You know, you got a family that's destroyed, and we as a school or a society, we didn't do good. You know, we let's keep it hush. We'll throw 1 or 2 counselors extra there so the kids can talk. We'll pretend it didn't happen. We'll underreport. Long as it's not impacting a certain demographic, it's not a problem. Because, that's what they do anyway. At least that's how I interpret it. I can even tell you, I was told several times not to go to funerals. Not to go. And I was like, well, I guess I'm getting fired. Because that's the minimum.
Right.
Like the bare minimum.
Right.
That I can do. And I had some colleagues that also would risk their employment to go. Because it's like, how can we pretend that this person didn't exist? When they were sitting in our office, in the cafeteria, you would see them. The hallway, you high five, you can sabe qué. So all that I say to say that it was emotionally draining for me. And I said, I got to do something. I'm getting older. I don't want to go back to a university, college, whatever. What can I do? And at that time, my wife and I were into the do-it-yourself home makeovers.
Yeah.
We'd watch all these shows, I was like, oh, that's cool, and coincidentally, we would do remodels in our house, and what do you think of this floor? No, pues I like this floor better, todo eso. And I just like, wait a minute. I wonder what it takes to be a realtor, ¿verdad? So I started doing the research, and I was like, oh, okay, it's not that bad. A couple classes, pass the test, y vámonos. And so that's what I did, and like I said, I'm going in my 10th year. I've enjoyed it. I work unintentionally with a specific population, mostly monolingual Spanish speakers,
right.
Mostly raza, usually people that nobody else wants to work with, or they were abused by another realtor or another loan officer.
Right.
They were misinformed, all that kind of stuff. And so my whole counseling background, came into play. And I was like, okay, let's figure this out. Let's put it together. I was very grateful that at that time, Coldwell Banker in the Lakewood office was very receptive to me working with them, because I was a very different demographic, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And so I started there, and I'm no longer there, but I'm with EXP now, which is a virtual brokerage.
Wow, virtual
brokerage, pero aquí estamos, apoyando a la raza.
Yeah, but one of the questions you sent me, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't come up with this question, is why is home ownership important for families?
Yeah. Well, and my wife taught me this, directly or indirectly. We all, as long as we're alive, we got to pay rent.
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, we got to pay to somebody.
Yeah.
And so why not pay it to yourself? Instead of an apartment where you're making somebody wealth, you're creating wealth for them.
Right.
Property is one of the few things that, usually, doesn't drop in value, and they're not making any more of the land. It's already made.
Unless we go to the moon
Andale.
or Mars.
Andale otra vez.
Allá hay más.
So why not invest in yourself and invest in that? And statistically, I mean, you can look at Habitat for Humanity, all the statistics that a single family residence is more conducive to a healthy, successful family versus a concentrated, like an apartment, a concentrated place like that.
Yeah.
Where you run the risk of, let's just say different behaviors, that aren't, safe.
Right.
And, all kinds of dynamics, you don't have a backyard where your children can play and things like that. So there's a whole bunch of benefits of owning your own property, right? That usually doesn't depreciate, but it usually appreciates. And especially here, we're going through a tough time. I think all of us are. But DFW is still a really good area and a lot of movement happening.
Right.
And it's a good time to buy for yourself. Okay.
You know what? I never thought about that part that, just having a home. Well, it's a house, but technically, it becomes your home, and then
Right.
how much benefits can come out of it for having a home instead of apartment or something that doesn't belong to you technically,
Right.
You
Yeah.
can really-
And you're spending all that money.
Yeah.
Do basic math. If you spend $1,000 a month, in 1 year, that's $12,000.
Mm-hmm.
In 5 years, that's 60,000. That's 60,000 that you will not have anything to show for. A receipt maybe, and whereas you could apply that right to a
Good rental history. Just kidding.
There you go. So yeah, those kinds of things.
We're running short on time, but another
Okay.
question that you had sent me also that I think is important is why is engaging in your culture so important?
Yeah, man, I don't think anybody should ever be ashamed of who and what they are.
Right.
You know what I mean? If you're German, chele ganas, whatever it is. We have, in my opinion, a very, very beautiful culture. I mean, take your pick.
Mm-hmm.
La comida,
Yeah.
el arte,
Mm-hmm.
right? La música,
La música.
el ambiente.
La
Like,
danza.
La danza, I mean, we got ambiente, man, for days, for
Mhm.
months, for
For
years,
months.
right? We're generally a happy people,
Yeah.
and a positive people and stuff like that. And so why not learn who we are, right? Just take pride. I'm not saying you have to go on this campaign, but I'm just saying that instead of saying, well, I'm American now. Well, sure. The whole Western Hemisphere is American.
Yeah.
North, Central, and South American.
Yeah.
So, but just take pride in your culture. Seeing your abuelita making the tortillas or whatever it is, And so I don't know. For me, I just think that it's important that we don't necessarily be falling into this whole idea that, well, we all have to assimilate. We all have to be American. I don't know about you,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't like one type of food every day.
No.
I like a
No.
variety.
Yeah.
I think everybody does. And
Yeah.
so
I love diving into different culture food, like whether it be
Sure.
Oriental, whether it be Indian, whether it be African, wherever I can try different stuff, even better. I love my frijoles, tortillas, and chile, but
Yeah.
man, when I get a chance to get something else, why not?
variety is the spice of life, dicen, ¿verdad?
Yeah, yeah.
And so I just want to encourage everyone that no matter what you're doing, whatever business, entrepreneurship, whatever it is, that take pride in and understand, or at least I believe, understand that people sacrificed so you and I could be here.
Right.
And I know if I went down your family story, because you're from Mexico, my parents, my mom's side, they were from here, but my dad's side, they're from Coahuila. It didn't just one day snap their fingers and here we are.
Yeah.
There's a lot of work, a lot of effort, and it's like let's acknowledge and give honor to that history. ¿Entiendes? That
Yeah.
the sacrifices they made for us to be able to be here. ¿Entiendes? I hope I answered the question. I think I did. But
Yeah. No, you did great. You're right. Like myself, I didn't appreciate how much my parents went through because I like to ask those questions to them. Like, what did it take?
Yeah.
And what happened? And why I got over here? Why did y'all leave Mexico?
Yeah.
They tried.
Yeah.
They couldn't make it.
Yeah.
They crossed illegally. My mom too. And then they paid a lot of money to bring us over.
Yeah.
And then as a irresponsible young adult that was doing dumb stuff to jeopardize my residency for a long time,
Yeah.
not being appreciative of how much they worked.
That's right.
Until I started getting older, more mature, to realize, like, if I keep getting in trouble,
Yeah.
I'm gonna get kicked out, and
Right.
all the work that my dad put into
That's
to
right.
bring me over here is gonna be flushed down, and I'm gonna be back in Mexico
Yeah.
because I couldn't act right.
Right. Yeah.
And you're right. I just forget how appreciative I am of my father be able to put. Primero they use a tanda to pay the coyote to cheat me over here, have to work so much, so many hours just to get the money to get us over here, and then just so I can dismiss it. Luckily, I'm a citizen now. Like I was, no call me. You can call them.
No se preocupen. We got cards.
I have my certificate. But you're right. It makes me think back of how ungrateful I was, how unappreciative, and how hard they did work just to get me over here. And I just wasn't grateful and thankful enough to realize, man, they really worked so hard, and I was just taking it for granted.
Yeah, I just that's a big message that I just try to instill in my family, and they instill it in me too. And we try to reinforce it around that none of us got to wherever we got by ourselves.
Right.
You know, there was people that sacrificed. There was people that, híjole, well, okay, I'll do it, or whatever. And we should remember that. We should be humble about that. And I think we should repay that to whoever the next person or whoever the next family is. It's like, if you're in a situation that you can help out in that way, pues échale ganas.
Yeah.
¿Qué te cuesta? I think I see that, at least in our culture, I believe it's a blessing. You get a blessing when you give a blessing.
Right.
¿Entiendes?
I think when you were talking about honoring the honoring the water, the fire, the venado, I think it's amazing that we strive more. And with that, we show honor to the work and all the sacrifice that our family did. Like for myself, I can work in the field, I can be out and about, but I couldn't do it. Why? Because I just know that my dad worked so hard on whether it would be a factory and things like that. My mom too, to be right there. I had to be more. I had to either work on a field or in a office environment or something more than that, because I just wasn't respecting the work that they did. They already did that work. My tios already worked so hard. Why can't I just keep moving forward and do other kind of jobs or do other kind of stuff, or be an entrepreneur or be a podcaster?
Yeah.
And honor them with that way, instead of just like being and doing the same thing they did. They already did it. I don't have to.
Yeah, I had this conversation the other day with my sister and my family. It was like, I think every parent always wants their kids to do better than them.
Right.
And I think one of the best ways of honoring your family is by doing as good as you can.
Right.
¿Verdad? And doing things in a good way and stuff like that. And so I hear what you're saying, and I'm in total agreement. It's important.
Yeah.
Nunca olvidar, our raíces and what it took. And yeah, thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Before I let you go, all your social medias, where can they contact you? If they're looking for a home, if the language is a barrier, maybe les gusta más en español para una casa, where can they get a hold of you? If you want to just give your social media, I'll put your number in the description, because people be funny on the internet sometimes. And I don't want to get your number just spread all over the place. But I'll put it in the description. Where can you get a hold of you?
Yeah, so, well, me van a regañar because I don't necessarily have like a web page or anything like that. However, I'm kind of notorious on Google.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like if you punch in my name, Evelio Flores, or you Google it, sale either a danzante or a realtor picture, so pick your poison, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, you want to go tribal today, or you want to buy a house, you know what I mean? Yeah. But I will give you probably a Facebook.
Yeah.
I had Evelio Flores, but everything is Evelio Flores, Evelio Flores.
All the links will be put on the description.
Yeah,
Make sure that people get a hold of you.
I just want to say, if I may, that we have our danza that's open to everybody. We just ask to become in a respectful way. And even if you just want to, hey, let me give it a shot. Yeah, we love to have you. Currently, we're practicing on Wednesdays in Dallas, and so you can reach out to us to get more information. As far as real estate, definitely would love to help you purchase any property in the DFW area. Even if you just have questions, sometimes people, it's interesting. We feel like, well, I can't do it right now. It's not a good time. But you really don't know until you actually go in and say, well, let's talk to a loan officer. Let's see what they say. Let's see what they find. And so many people, and this is recently, like within the last 2 months, people that didn't think they could buy a home or buying homes because they've done their work in terms of maybe they didn't save up as much money,
Right.
but they always paid their bills on time. And, there's programs to help them out in that way. So it doesn't hurt to try.
Right.
That's always the key.
I was telling somebody today, like, if you never ask, the answer is always going to be no.
That's right.
Like, you just don't know. Go inform yourself. At least now at the time, And maybe they give you a game plan to what to do so you can tackle that
Right.
and you'll be eligible to. And then plus, there's all kinds of programs out there. They'll be able to assist you, whether it be home first-time buyer.
Right.
And all kinds of stuff there out there.
Yeah. And I think that at the very least, obviously they say knowledge is power.
Right.
So if you know how the real estate game, or at least some of it, how it works, or understand elements of it, then that's for your benefit.
Right.
Maybe right now is not the time. Maybe 6 months from now, maybe a year from now. But at least you're educating yourself. And so
Right.
that's important. And honestly, like, why make someone else richer? That's I'm going to throw that out there time and again. Don't make someone else richer. Invest in yourself.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So, what is an important lesson that you learned doing danza or real estate that you will tell your younger self that will help somebody else out? What would that be?
Well, in real estate, I'll go that one first.
Mm-hmm.
I should have started 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, you look at a lot of the big wigs,
Mhm.
the Trumps, the Perot's, the Mark
Right.
Cubans, and they all bought land and
Mm-hmm.
invested in land and property, and hombre, ahorita they got some feria, you know what I mean? And so if we, and I say myself specifically, but we as a people would have been more conscious of, property and things like that, then maybe, we could have had something, ourselves like that. But it would
Right.
have been nice. Imagínate right here, anywhere near downtown, you own several acres. Now all of a sudden there you sell it so they can do a high rise. Oh man, that check is gonna be pretty nice, So that's on the real estate side. On the danza, I think almost the same thing in that to start earlier because it reinforces like unity and community building.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I don't know that I was on that mindset. I kind of think I was. My mom, I always said my mom, my dad, they was always helping people,
Mm-hmm.
all the time. And so, they were always supporting folks and stuff. So I noticed that. But I think in dance, I really came how everything was done in a loving way, in a respectful way.
Mm-hmm.
And it was always, we're all one circle.
Mm-hmm.
And, no one is better than the other, but we're all like, whatever happens this side of the circle impacts this side of the circle.
Right.
And so that's a powerful teaching, to think in terms of community. It's very easy to think for yourself. Like, that's
Yeah.
not hard.
Yeah.
But to think in terms of community, that's a little more challenging, especially that we're not really taught that in this society.
Yeah.
The whole individualism and stuff like that. So that's what I would have told the younger me.
Yeah.
Hey, do this earlier and jump in that earlier también.
Yeah.
To learn these kinds of
You
tools.
ya oyeron. Go
Ándale.
do it now. Do it now.
Así es.
It's something usually that I say throughout the day or maybe when I wake up. I'm not immortal. I am mortal and I will die one day. I heard it from this guy, guru guy, and I just really like the phrase because it's all reality, right? It's true. We're going to go. It's not to scare me, not to frighten me, not to freak me out, but
Right.
it's just reality.
Right.
But it makes me want to go ahead and do stuff, keep active, do
Sure.
different things like that, right? With that, I wish you a long, prosperous life.
Ándale,
However,
igualmente, brother. Thank
When
you.
everything's said and done, what do you want people to think and feel about your life?
Well, I hope they thought I was funny.
There you go. You got everybody laughing. It works.
People ask me that sometimes, and they're like, "What do you want to be remembered for?" I said, "Well, that was
Mhm.
kind of funny. That'd be kind of cool. They could tell a
Right.
joke and say, "Oh, ese canijo, man, he did some funny stuff." You know what I mean? And I mean that because
Mm-hmm.
what better medicine
Right.
is laughter?
Yeah.
Doesn't it bring a smile? Doesn't it make you feel good? And so I try to be funny. Sometimes to, como dicen, to their chagrin, la familia, they're like, oh, no, please don't try to be funny, pero yo sigo adelante, And I think I get that, from my parents. My dad's a really jokester también. And, the Flores family, somos payasos, so, but, yeah, obviously all the other stuff people say, ¿verdad?
Right.
Que I lived a good life, que eso, que el otro. But being funny to me is good because, at the funeral, like you said, the inevitable funeral, if someone can look at me and say, man, and they start laughing, I'll be like, órale, you know what I mean?
Simón. Yeah.
So that would be pretty good for me,
Yeah, I like that too because I
Yeah.
feel the same way too.
Ándale.
I'll be like, where he went to, he's probably laughing his butt up, telling a funny joke, or trying to be funny.
Haciendo desmadre allá,
Donde quiera que esté. All right, I appreciate your time
Thank
very
you,
much.
brother.
I ever since I talked to you the first time, and even it was a short time to
Yeah.
get a piece of the interview, which it's gonna come out one of these days. But I knew that your insight regarding Xicano, the history of Xicano, the word, and everything else. And in addition to after I knew more about you, there's
Yeah.
only been a few times that I've seen you, but like the danza and
Yeah.
everything else that you do, the way that you live your life, respect for nature, all that stuff is a beautiful thing that I felt like it needed to be shared.
Oh, I appreciate
And
that. Thank you.
I thank you because I know that you don't do a lot of these, but
Right.
I appreciate that you're sharing this.
Yeah.
It's a whole lot more things that we possibly could have talked about, but I appreciate the insights that you're able to provide to me, and hopefully provide to other people to better them, and give an example for somebody that's doing amazing things, that is happy, that's always laughing, and then it's cares for the community, right?
Yeah.
Because you do it with the danza,
Yeah.
and then
yeah.
you're inviting with people that want to be part of it to make sure that you get the experience.
Yeah.
If you never had an opportunity, if you've been curious about tapping into your roots, and again, the answer is always going to be no if you don't reach out. But it's
Right.
crazy that how inviting you are to, hey, come check it out. At least try it out.
Yeah.
See what
Thank
it's all
you.
about. If you don't like it, it's not yours. Good. At least you gave it a go at that time.
I see it.
But it's good that y'all inviting and welcoming to bring you in. And I appreciate you so much, very much.
Yeah.
And I would say you are a global Latin factor, but that's not the thing that you do, but you are definitely an amazing human factor.
Oh, thank
And
you.
thank you very much for being here. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
This was another episode of the Global Latin Factor podcast. Remember, we are just like you. Remember to subscribe first of all. Don't be playing. It's been like almost 3 years. Don't be playing. Go subscribe right now. It's for free because it's important for you to support and check out all these amazing stories so we can spread. And remember, we are just like you. We are humans. We are the spice in this melting pot that it is the world. Till next time.
Thank you very much for checking out this amazing episode. We hope that you enjoyed the story. Make sure you go and subscribe to the channel and check out the episodes that we have prepared for you. Until next time.
Walks like a pedo, but in fact is a flamingo. Coming to Havana.